So let's talk about creating your personal growth plan coming up. Listen, I don't need to tell you that you have so much access to information 24/7. We're living in an incredible information era, and that presents crazy challenges for entrepreneurs who need to understand how to systematically learn and implement a plan to grow from a personal standpoint. Now, here's a really important thing to remember. Your personal growth has to be prioritized as an entrepreneur. Why? Because so many of us get stuck prioritizing career and ambitions over personal growth. We often fail not because we didn't actually have the skills or the know-how or the potential, but because we weren't disciplined enough, because we didn't actually follow through with what we intended to accomplish. And that's a character flaw. So how do you build your competence and your character? That's what we're going to talk about in this episode with 3 big tips so you can build your personal growth plan this year. Now, tip number 1 is common sense, but it's not common practice, and that's to be intentional. So many entrepreneurs, creatives, and leaders show up to their lives with zero game plan. They just expect to grow as they start taking action. And while it's super important to take action, even if your plan is not perfect, you have to be intentional about growing. You have to have a plan to not just consume information, but also implement it. Now, I love this chart that John C. Maxwell presents in his book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. And he talks about accidental growth versus intentional growth. And I wanted to quickly read to you the differences here. So, accidental growth plans to start tomorrow versus intentional growth insists on starting today. Accidental growth says, I'm going to wait for growth to come, whereas intentional growth takes complete responsibility to grow. Accidental growth learns only from mistakes, whereas intentional growth often learns before mistakes. Accidental growth depends on luck versus intentional growth relies on hard work. Accidental growth quits early and often versus intentional growth perseveres long and hard. Accidental growth falls into bad habits and intentional growth fights for good ones. Accidental growth talks big, whereas intentional growth follows through. Accidental growth plays it safe, while intentional growth takes risks. Accidental growth thinks like a victim, and intentional growth thinks like a learner. Accidental growth relies on talent, and intentional growth relies on character. Accidental growth stops learning after graduation, and intentional growth never stops growing. And I love this comparison chart between accidental growth and intentional growth. When you're intentional about defining exactly how you're going to be learning and creating systems around your life that enable you to actually dream bigger and create a life that you're excited about and proud of, and also set up amazing strategies to go from where you are right now to where you want to be, you're going to truly enjoy not just the process of growing and learning as a professional, but you're also going to have that excitement seep through into every other aspect of your life, your relationships, your spirituality, your health, the way that you feel and experience everything that comes your way. See, most of us are used to traditional education where you go to class every day, you get homework, you take a couple of tests, and you get a good grade. But after we graduate, there's no real path, no real guidance as to how you continue to grow and develop as a human, as a professional, also in your personal relationships. So, tip number 1, be intentional. You have to put forth effort. You have to define and follow through. All right, tip number 2, identify what areas in your life and your business you need to develop. I was sharing with my students inside the Business Lounge and inside the Prosper Plan that I actually want to develop this year even better leadership skills. It's one of the things that really stretched me last year as our team doubled in size. And I found myself at a place where I no longer had to just lead and train my department heads. And I also needed to build them up as leaders. And and I needed to provide training and guidance as to how to get that done. Leadership is a big focus for me this year, and that's one of the areas that I want to develop in. So you need to figure out what are some of the areas in your life and your business that you need development, whether that's consistency or discipline or living a healthier lifestyle or being more organized in your personal life. Maybe it has a lot to do with your spirituality and getting more connected to God, or maybe it has a lot to do with your career and how you're going to move forward and identify key opportunities to succeed. Tip number 3 is to develop habits that will support your personal growth plan. So it's not just enough to say, okay, I have the intention to actually grow consistently and I'm going to grow in these specific areas. I also need to develop habits that'll enable me to take action. So for example, I've been talking to you guys about how important it is to create habits in a previous video, which we'll link somewhere here in the description box below. But one of those habits that you should be developing should be something like reading every single day. A key habit that would help support you in doing so is to set out an alarm clock and actually create a time frame where you're going to be reading for 15 to 20 minutes every single day and build that into your routine. And then keep track of how many times every single month you actually follow through with your reading habit. Bonus points if you set a reward and some consequences if you do or do not follow through with your habits. So remember, to create a great personal growth plan, you need to be number 1, intentional. Number 2, you need to identify areas for development. And number 3, you want to develop habits that support your intention. If you want to dig even deeper into this topic, we just released an entire 30-minute session inside our Prosper Plan workshop just on developing a personal growth plan, complete with worksheets and practical strategies so that you can actually put this into action. You don't want to miss it. It's a seasonal workshop that only comes around once a year. It's going to help you go from just setting basic goals to actually creating a business and life plan so that you can prosper no matter what in the new year. All the links are below, and I could literally talk about goal setting and habits and creating plans for your business all day long, but I want you to watch my next video all about how to set smart habits for the new year and the areas that you need to be developing in as an entrepreneur. That'll be linked somewhere here on the episode, and I can't wait to see you there. Bye for now. Un beso.